I'm going to go ahead and, which one's mine? This one?
I'm so bad at this.
I'm going to bring the meeting to order. I'm going to gavel here. There you go. This is the, August 22nd, 2022 meeting of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission for the City of Rehoboth Beach. We're beginning about, looks like 3 minutes after. We have a couple house cleaning chores to take care of, and we're going to do those first before we get to the appeals. It shouldn't take too long, and bear with us, and we'll proceed. Okay, first thing I want to do is...
Don't we have to do the roll call?
I'm going to do the roll call. Right now we have Ms.
Edith Herron.
Ms. Herron is here. Ms. Ritter?
Here.
She's here. We're expecting Katie Downs will announce her when she comes in, and myself. Glenn Mandelis, the city's counselor, attorney, and Liz Lingo is representing the city for as arborist. Okay, let's see. I thought we could maybe approve the minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes that Ann has done a spectacular job on. It makes us look actually intelligent, you know, in the reading of it afterwards, which is kind of shocking in a way. So, especially for me. So, but anyway, so if everybody's had a chance, I was going to do the. Let's see what I got here. The February 28th meeting. There was only 3 of us here, so. Maybe if Edie could make a motion to
I
approve.
can do that even though I wasn't at the meeting.
I think you
Okay.
can, yeah.
I move that that we accept the
Okay.
minutes from February 25th,
Okay.
28th, excuse me.
And you want to second it? You can second.
I second the
Okay,
motion.
good, thanks. I think this may be a routine here, so, okay. So is all in favor of saying, of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. So Edie wasn't here, so she's going to abstain, so. The February is approved. And we could conceivably do the remaining 3 together, I think, if that's okay. So and
I
that's,
have a comment on
Okay, go right
the
ahead.
April one,
which one?
in April.
Okay. What was,
I see a couple of very small typos, and I know how hard that is to find when you have such a great deal of information. But in both cases, we had when we're at the motion, it says Edith Herron made a motion, and then just says Catherine Downs. On the previous ones, it always said seconded by, and that's true in the other case also. So the words seconded by are missing. In both of those.
okay.
In addition, on the second appeal from Zimmerman's, in the first paragraph, 3rd line, it says the trees, so tree is extraneous, and then on the 5th line, about a third of the way over, there's a small lowercase w starting the sentence, if the trees. So it says with high vigor and no visible defects, period, and then there's a lowercase w just hanging there, and then it said if the trees. So that would need to be removed, and the other correction, and the 2 seconded by. So I found 4 very small items.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure,
Yes.
please.
In order not to tie up the meeting with this type of stuff, if you can get this information to me prior to a meeting, that way we can get into approval of the minutes and move on with.
Okay, I didn't know that, but in the future, I absolutely will, and thank you so much for telling me.
Okay, and we can approve them based on corrections being made or whatever, so, yeah, okay.
Are there any substantive corrections, or are they all grammatical? Okay, so we can, you can approve them subject to the
Yeah, okay. I just want to announce that it's 8 after 10, and Katie Downs has arrived, so we have 4 members here. Okay. So we're in the midst of approving minutes, and we're going to, I think, someone makes a motion that we approve the 3.
I make a motion that we approve all 3 of these
Okay,
sets
and
of minutes,
okay, and then
pending the minor corrections.
You can second it.
I second.
And you could. Okay, so, all right. So all in favor of approving the 3 sets of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so we have taken care of that business. Okay. The other thing I want to do is to take the agenda a little bit out of order because I feel like we may be needing this later. We may not, I don't know. But Edie had done a little homework over the past 2 months, I guess, and speaking in terms of the tree costs, costs of everything seem to be going up, and obviously fuel costs. I noticed in the Sussex Tree proposals, there's a fuel cost adjustment there. So I get it. I understand. So anyway, but anyway, I just thought we would review this and see where we want to take it or whatever. But if you want to give a little background.
Certainly.
So,
First,
Mr. Chair, just so the record's clear, you're taking up 7A under other business on the agenda.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you. Okay.
if someone could pass this to Katie, I'd put one over there for Glenn and for you, but I didn't know where Katie might be sitting when she arrived, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm referring back to our, I'm referring back to our minutes of April 25th at the very top. This isn't a correction, this is just, it said, in the future, the commission members plan to address this and come up with a way to factor this on appeals. And that was what the going rate of, for tree fees should be. So what I did was you each have a single page in front of you, and I gave one to Ann. I did a ballpark per tree cost with 4 different vendors. I'm not naming them here, but I asked for, and I visited 4 different sites and looked at what they had and talked to people there for tree purchase, delivery, and planting. And so I did this survey, and all quotes were for a 3 to 3. Oh, Liz, did you want one? Sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't think of handing one to you. I brought enough. Excuse me. Here you go. All quotes are for a 3 to 3.5 inch caliper tree, which is usually at a 15-gallon pot. Planting included topsoil, mulch, and stakes for this size tree and pot. And these vendors are in no particular order. They're actually in the order that I visited them. And I just chose representative samples. So vendor 1, as you see, American Holly, they have a total tree cost. Their vendor gives a total for planting and the tree itself. And so you see those numbers there, $950 and $1,500 for those 2 types of trees. Vendor 2, they gave me an average cost based on the chosen tree and its availability at the time of customer's order. Now, I must note that this is before the gas prices went so high and so many places are charging surcharges. So there may be a surcharge here because I did this back in early June for our June meeting if we were going to have it. So here, as you see, they said vendor 2, $500 to $800, delivery and planning approximately $300. So they were saying $800 to $1,100 per tree. Vendor 3, and they only dealt with the trees in stock. That's what only thing that they would quote me on. So I chose 3 out of the many that they had in stock. And delivery and planning was a standard fee for that particular vendor and gave you the per tree cost. But that was because they were in stock. They said if someone was ordering a specific tree of a specific size, that it could be a much higher number. And then the 4th vendor, again, these were quotes only for trees in stock. And they had 2 types that I thought we might be talking about. And they do not do delivery and planting. So the property owner must purchase the tree and then arrange for delivery and planting. They do have a business card for someone whom the customer may contact, but they do not offer that service. So if I would say we were looking at the 3rd column in each situation to get an idea of where we might be at any particular time.
Okay. Well, this is good.
Questions anyone had? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I think there's several ways we could conceivably go with this with regard to, if we wanted to come up with basically kind of an average cost, and or if we wanted to have some specificity in this with regard to if we're recommending that somebody replace such and such a kind of tree, we'd have sort of a better idea of what that might be versus another variety or something like that. So, I mean, I would say, if, and this is something I guess we're invoking as far as like kind of a general policy for the commission, but it's not going to be hard and fast, so.
Right, it won't be codified and you won't be, unless you adopt a resolution saying this is the number that it'll be, you won't be held to it, other than this should be sort of a policy guidance for you going forward.
I believe, as I recall the discussion in the previous meeting, we were trying to get out of the $600, which we felt was too low, which had been kind of the standard, although not a resolution, for quite some time. And we decided we were off the mark in that case and didn't want to have to rediscuss what it was different from 600 each time, to start with some data and come up with something that was maybe a new threshold to begin with. That's what I understood.
Right, and the other thing too is I think it's good. I think it's a good policy to revisit this, and certainly in light of how we're kind of in a price increases trending generally, and that may change hopefully from the future, that they may average out or decline or whatever, but anyway, I think this just gives us good footing to, if we make a recommendation. So I guess what I would suggest, I mean, how you all feel about it with regard to have a range, or basically have a range, or do you want to come up with a number, or how do you feel about it?
I can give you one more data point, just because, the city commissioners have been working on revising the tree code. So they have a provision in there now, and I think they're pretty much settled on this, unless you do something different here that informs their decision. But in the draft tree code, the current draft, it says fee in lieu of mitigation, where a property is shown clearly not suitable for on-site mitigation for a replacement tree, the property owner or permit applicant shall pay a fee in lieu of mitigation in the amount of $1,200 for each replacement tree required. So they've built into the draft new tree code $1,200 per tree. This discussion might inform what they're doing, and it might change, but that's what they currently have. Liz, you haven't heard any more discussion about that number, right? That's where they've kind of settled. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think, just in the visits that I made and talking to the people at these nurseries, that the first two sets, vendor one and vendor two, are where we should focus, because the others were based actually on, here's what we have, and we're kind of trying to get rid of it in a way. It was kind of sale items in some fashion. So I would think that, if you look at those numbers, we're talking between 800 and 1,500, and the 1,200 that Glenn just mentioned is, right in that sweet spot. Doesn't mean we have to choose it. I'm just saying, I think that's where our focus should be in this discussion.
Okay,
But it's just my opinion.
And I agree with that.
okay.
I agree with that from pricing out plans.
Are you agreeing that 1,200 is the number that should be in ordinance?
I
or-
agree that, between 950 and 1,500, depending on what tree, is a reasonable range. 800, depending, if it's a really easy species to get. But that's for a 3 to 3.5 inch caliber tree. That's a pretty darn large tree. And typically you would plant something that would be 2 to 2.5 inch, 2.5 to 3 inch tree. So it would be, 1,200 would be about right for planting, planted, I would say.
Okay. Sorry, one thing I forgot to mention when you asked me about the draft, it's worth noting that we're changing to a 2-inch tree requirement. So that 1,200 is also meant to reflect watering and maintenance, same as if they were actually planting a tree. So the cost of planting the 2-inch should be below 1,000, but then you have all the incidentals that go along with that.
Right,
So.
and it would equal out to about 1,200, would imagine with everything.
First couple of years of maintenance, I mean, in the grand scheme, it costs way more than that to have a tree, right?
Oh,
Because
heavens,
then we're
yes.
thinking growing, watering, treating, pruning, and eventually removing, so.
Exactly.
But it sounds like we are at least 1,000, or at least 1,000 to 1,100, and probably a ceiling of, I haven't heard anybody say 1,500, so we're talking 11 to 1,200 up to 12, to about 1,400. So we're all in the same page here, so.
I think
and we're
yeah.
choosing a ballpark.
What Katie was alluding to too is as a redbud or river birch are gonna be a lot cheaper than a dogwood,
Sure.
you know, or to find a 12-foot holly, those will be more expensive trees. And estimates do run the gamut. I mean, the city, we pay less than $300 an inch, but that's in bulk from a preferred contractor that we already have an existing contract with. I've seen estimates as high as $500 an inch,
Yeah,
depending.
And you buy, like you said, in bulk, and yeah, and when they buy in bulk, I mean, that's a whole different story than buying 3 trees.
Yeah. But I mean, we also have to take into account there are, say, contractors that are building a new home and they'll send, arrange for the tree to be delivered or send a guy to pick them up or whatever it may be and then have their people plant it. So their cost may not be that high either. It depends, Or then if you have a landscape designer plus a high-end landscape company, the costs can go up from there. So it really does run the gamut. I would say you'd be hard pressed to get anything done for less than like 800 with a decent tree and good quality.
Wait, just for point of information, we are talking about what we will be using as a fee in lieu of mitigation. So,
All this does is sort of indicate that it's based on something,
Okay.
and I think that's valuable, or valid.
okay. So I think we should put a lower limit on it, but I think it should, we should say at least $1,200. Because there may be some lots where, I don't know, or some locations where it's only going to take a certain kind of tree that's going to be more than that or something.
Yeah, okay. All right. Anybody like to make a motion for a recommendation?
Well, I'll do it, but I don't know if you want me to, since I was the
Hang on one second.
data collector.
I wanted to invite anybody in the audience, if they would like to make any comment, open it up to the public. Calling once, twice. Okay, we're good. All right, we're back.
What I was saying is it appropriate for me to make a motion, even though I did all the data collection, or would it be better for one of the other commissioners to do that? It doesn't matter to me.
It's fine, there's nothing wrong with you
Okay.
making the motion if you want to. Mhm.
Well, I move that we create a minimum threshold of $1,200 for mitigation for tree replacement, and make the upper limit dependent on circumstances.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
I second that.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor, on the table. I think Liz would like to make a comment.
Not necessarily on that, but, and Glenn can probably remember this better than me because it was 10 years ago, but they actually had a total dollar limit amount for a property for 5,000 square feet and then above, which I believe was $5,000 and $10,000. So I don't know if you guys want to do that as well, or just say that is eliminated, but I think it probably should be addressed so that those old figures aren't hanging out there.
Yeah, the cap, thanks for reminding me of that, Liz. The cap on, this has been back in 2014. So the cap on the fee should be $5,000 for a 5,000 square foot lot and $10,000 for a 10,000 square foot lot. So no matter how much caliper of replacement was required on a 5,000 square foot lot, they said they'd limit to $5,000, and on a 10,000 square foot lot, they'd limit it to $10,000
Okay,
for whatever that's worth.
all right. Well, I kind of see that more in the purview of the tree ordinance.
Unless we'd be bound by that, because essentially we'd be obviating what we just voted on if it's just going to be a couple of trees.
Yeah,
If the cap is the cap.
Right.
still in effect until we make a statement about it? Because, I mean, we're talking about 8-year-old data.
Right. I think this discussion right now is suggesting that it's not still enough.
Right,
Right? I mean,
right,
so-
exactly.
Right.
Well, I'm thinking of that lot where the woman wanted to take down all of the trees, and there were a couple of really old trees, and we ended up charging, I think we ended up at $1,200 or $1,500, but if we had made her go $1,200 for each tree, I just think that would have been a more fair mitigation, because she was just decimating the lot, basically. And I think if there's a pretty high barrier, it will inspire people to take a second look at their plans before they submit them and try to figure out, you know, a better way of doing it to preserve the trees that they have. It's kind of coming up today.
Should we use maybe a template here, since it was 5,000 and 10,000? Should we just say, okay, 10,000 for a 50, you know, for the lower lot, 50 square feet, 500 square.
I don't think that's
5,000
enough.
square
I don't
feet.
think that's enough.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
I'm
we're-
just, I'm
We're
I'm
just
throwing
effectively
something out.
doubling it.
And then,
so,
yeah, and 15,000 for another, if it were, or perhaps we say that the cap will be considered at a later time. Maybe that needs more discussion, just as we thought about this. I don't know, or maybe we want to solve it all at once. I'm not sure what anyone feels.
I don't see a point of putting a cap on it, because we're getting fewer and fewer trees in Rehoboth. And if everybody wants to chop down all the trees on their lot just to build their dream house, you know, there has to be some monetary reason for them to say, oh, maybe we ought to think about this for a minute. That's what I think.
Maybe we say that the caps that were mentioned, I mean, I don't know if Glenn can help us with that language, in 2014 are no longer valid. And the committee will, and the commission will decide on each case what will be, as the motion was. We set a baseline, and then we said based on circumstance. And if that stands, maybe we should be adding one phrase: the former caps established in 2014 are no longer in effect, or however Glenn decides we should say
Is
it.
that an amendment to your motion? We can do it that quick.
Yeah, I can say it over again.
Will you accept? Yep, say it over again, and we'll see if she'll accept the amendment to the motion.
All right, all right. I move, I'm going to try. I move that we set a baseline cap, restate. I move that we set a baseline cost of $1,200 per tree for mitigation replacement cost. And allow the commission to decide on a case-by-case circumstance basis a maximum. In addition, the 2014 cap numbers are no longer in effect by acceptance of this motion.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Any clarification you think we need to make with regard to
No,
that?
I think it's clear, and you've got it. Yep.
You have it better than I said it.
Okay.
She usually does.
I know she does.
Well, if there's no further discussion, are we prepared to make a vote? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, I guess, say aye.
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 Aye, aye.
Aye.
Yeah, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. One thing I did skip in my haste to get to this discussion, I didn't ask Ann about the posting of the meeting. Yeah.
The agenda was posted on August 10th and was amended on August 16th, reposted on August 16th.
Okay, thank you.
There were public notices to the new also.
Right, okay, very good. I guess now we can move on, unless there's any other thing to
Cases.
discuss. We move on to the three appeals that we have before us today. Is there any reason, does anybody have any kind of time constraints? I was just going to do these in the order that they are on the, okay, good. All right, I'm going to, this is opening discussion for the appeal hearing number 0622-20 2023-03, which has been requested by Jeff Meredith of Sussex Tree, who is here today, on behalf of Kevin and Shannon Tehan, owners of the property located at 501 Bayard. There's some discussion about that. Pursuant to Section 253-36 of the Municipal Code, and pertains to the appeal of a denial of a tree removal permit application for 8 trees and any determination of required tree plantings or fee in lieu of mitigation. Okay? And I'm going to ask our city arborist, Liz Lingo, to give us some background.
I'll preface it with that I say Bayard, so.
Bayard, okay.
Born and raised, but I know others that
Yeah,
say
right. And
Bayard.
there's the Bayard and the Stokely and the Stockley. It's really
Definitely
rough.
Stokely.
Definitely
That I can
Stokely.
confirm.
I say Bayard if
See?
you care. Lance Bayard said Bayard.
There's debate around that one. We don't have time to get into that. All right. The following is the report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced appeal, case number 0622-03, that is to be heard before the commission on Monday, August 22nd, 2022. The applicant submitted a tree removal permit application for 8 trees as part of a new home construction application. Proposed for removal are a 36-inch white oak, 24-inch red cedar, 12-inch Japanese maple, 6-inch crepe myrtle, 42-inch red cedar, 8-inch crepe myrtle, 20-inch pine, and 24-inch cherry. All trees are in fair to good condition except the 24-inch cherry, which is in poor condition. The permit was denied for failure to minimize tree removal during design and construction as per City Tree Code, 2 specific sections, 253-26F, whether or not the density requirement in subsection A of this section are applicable to a lot. All reasonable efforts must be made to save protected trees on a lot. Reasonable efforts shall include, but not be limited to, alteration of building design, alternate location of building, parking area, water retention, or drainage infrastructure, or relocation of utilities. The provisions of 253-35F shall apply to efforts made under subsection E of this section. And then section 253-30A to A7. The tree prevents reasonable development of a lot that is otherwise permissible under city ordinances. However, a tree removal permit shall not be granted where the applicant has failed to design and locate the proposed improvements, demolition, or subdivision so as to minimize the removal of trees consistent with the permitted use of the lot, and shall be granted only after full consideration of alternatives under 253-35 of this article. As stated in the attached permit denial letter, the applicants were given the option of submitting a revised plan adhering to the code or appealing the decision to the commission. If all the trees are permitted for removal, a planting plan for 126 inches would be required. With pruning and a minor site plan adjustment to the side setbacks, the applicant should be able to retain all trees except for the 24-inch cherry, 20-inch pine, and 8-inch crepe myrtle. In that case, a planting for 1 new deciduous canopy tree would be required to meet minimum density. At the time of this report, which was August 3rd, the Building and Licensing Department had completed a plan review for the new home. There are remaining items to be addressed before issuance of permits, as noted in the attached email. The Commission has the sole authority to hear and decide this appeal. 253-36, Administrative Appeals, C. Authority of the Park and Shade Tree Commission. The Park and Shade Tree Commission shall have the authority to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged that there is error in any decision made by the building inspector on an application for a tree removal permit or land clearing permit. In exercising its authority, the Park and Shade Tree Commission may reverse or affirm, wholly or in part, or may modify the building inspector's decision. Additionally, the Park and Shade Tree Commission has the authority to order a fee in lieu of mitigation.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Liz? I'm looking at the copy of the survey, and so the driveway parking is actually going to be on,
I don't have the survey in
what
front
street
of
is
me.
it? Is it Stokely?
I don't have the survey in front of me.
Hickman.
for it.
Hickman, yeah, that's right. So any of the trees that are on the Bayard, we're not gonna get it right. Street side won't be affected by a driveway. The driveway will be around the side. Is that correct? That's my-
Yes,
that's- I
yeah,
mean,
they
I-
have the drive, if I remember correctly, the driveway is not on
Right, okay.
Bayard.
So I'm just trying to establish that we won't have any driveway curb cuts as a result of,
It's shown on their, where it was shown on their site plan. I
Right,
do
it's-
not believe that
It's
has
at the
changed.
top, it's at the top of the drawing.
right, that's what I'm
Proposed.
saying, but not on Bayard.
No, it's on
No.
Hickman.
That's what I'm saying.
It's on Hickman.
Right.
That'd be pretty, I feel sorry for people with driveways on Bayard
Yeah,
myself.
right, okay. Okay, I just want to verify that. Okay.
So are the trees that are shown on the plot plan, the current plot plan, are those the existing?
Yes,
Yes,
Those are existing.
yes.
yeah. I went yesterday and looked at the whole thing. I always do that the day before our hearings, and so I really saw where they are, and some of them are quite old and large trees.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I figured that they were, I just didn't know, I mean, I pretty much knew they were, but I just was making sure that those were the,
Yeah, there's nothing proposed shown on that plan in terms of trees.
okay.
It's just existing.
I'm just wondering.
Where would you even put trees?
Well, yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a plan like that and it does have like proposed one deciduous in the front yard, but not on lots with lot trees like that. Just ones where they know it's missing.
Okay.
And the three, Liz, that you're talking about that would have to go if their plan was approved here are the cherry, which if you're looking at they're the ones on the Hickman side. The cherry, which is the one that's in poor condition.
Yeah, it was rough before they
Yeah, I saw it.
even
I saw it.
purchased the lot.
Yeah, it looks
So
bad.
that has nothing to do with demolition or any,
Right,
it's
it's-
looked bad always.
It's a sad tree. And
It's
then,
what they look like when they
and
get
then the
older.
crepe myrtle and the pine are also on the Hickman side, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that it's like the three of those are kind of in a row going up Hickman.
Mm-hmm.
So those, in your statement, you were saying that in that case, a planning for one new deciduous canopy tree would be required to meet minimum density to cover the removal of those three. In your paragraph there at the second to the bottom of your first page of your report. That's true, correct?
I'm sorry, what's true?
I was interpreting this correctly. The three that you're saying would go away, that there would be you're talking about, it's on the second to last paragraph of your first page. You
Yes,
say,
yeah, yes.
Those are the three.
you're
Those
reading
three
it
along-
correctly.
The one down Hickman there, those three, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest would stay hypothetically. Thank you for the clarification.
I'm thinking that's here. It says proposed drive strips, so I'm assuming they'll keep. All right, well, should we hear from the appellant's representative? Yeah, this is, the state, you know the drill. It's not-
Yeah, I know the drill. Jeff Meredith, Sussex Tree, certified arborist.
Thank you.
And this is Kevin. Kevin, I'll let you say your last name.
Tehan. I'm the owner.
Tehan, I'm sorry, I messed
Nice
up.
to meet you all, property.
Appreciate that.
So,
Okay.
okay. You've got it planned for a basement, as you saw. How about if I do that?
It was Jeff,
Jeff Meredith,
no, I know, but his name was,
Kevin
Tehan.
Tehan.
oh, so he's not Gray Agnew.
No. What are we doing?
It's,
We're on the,
Talking
oh,
about
I'm in the wrong
501
one. Oh,
Bayard
excuse me.
Avenue.
I'm sorry. It's my
All right,
player.
no big deal.
I apologize. Yes, I see. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you see where he's digging the basement, or that's where the basement's gonna be.
Yeah.
Right on the edge of the large pine. And a couple other trees. The only one that's not in that area for the basement's that 30-inch white oak out front. Now, the size of his house, which he should be building, I can leave it, but I'm gonna cut half that tree off because it's gonna be into the house. And Kevin can tell you, as far as he's tried every which way, he wants to build the house the way he wants to build it. Crepe Myrtle is not counted as a tree. That's why it's not on my copy. I can't plant a tree, a Crepe Myrtle for a tree. So it's not even classified as a tree, according to Liz. So, but I'll let Kevin tell you exactly what he's doing or wants to do. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're just building so we've played with this design for a while, and I know Jeff Garrison and our architect have tried to design it in an efficient way so we could not have to take down any trees, but I think this is just what we've come up with and what works. So I don't know if you want me to go into more details or
Well, it'd be helpful, I think,
just about the design process.
yeah.
Well, could you respond to Liz's comments? Could you respond to Liz's comments that you could make a few modifications in the setbacks or something and preserve all the trees?
So I'm not an architect, so I don't want to get too into detail. But I mean, I honestly don't know the final answer to that question, but I would think if or at least according to Jeff, once you start to go in and start to dig and, have machinery and equipment in there, you're going to damage those trees, and then they may not make it anyway. I mean, that was the first question or the first conversation we had back in November, I think, when I looked at it. I'm not, again, not being an architect, I'm not sure how you could move this house without shrinking it considerably and not take those trees down. That's just my 2 cents, but again, I'm not an expert, so
So is your position to take down all the trees,
yes,
all of them?
yes.
And then
That's what our builder has said, that's what you have to do to build on this lot.
And then did you want to mitigate 103 inches of trees?
126.
Or 126 inches of trees? That's a lot of trees.
plus, are
Considering
you
they're
counting
mostly
the Crepe
2 or
Myrtles
3
on
inch
that
trees.
also?
Liz, did you include the crepe myrtle there? Because that's considered a shrub, correct?
No, these were large enough to be considered trees, but they don't count for mitigation. So they count for you, but not against you.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure what exactly that means, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
we'd
okay.
like to take them all down.
I will say this, when he starts building on that lot with that size trees, most of the root structure, which is the mycorrhizin, which are only 3 to 4 inches in the ground, he's gonna kill them anyway. Those trees go all the way across that lot that he has in every direction. As old as that house was, they've established themselves everywhere on that lot. We're talking about that one that's 30-inch caliper white oak. That living layer of that tree or that mycorrhizin is all over that lot. So probability of killing it, I'd probably say 70% you'll kill it, no matter what you move it to.
I guess my question would be, I'm just from my, observation of this, that it would seem to me if the house could be moved back on the lot to some degree, and then, which would obviously require moving the driveway strips from the Hickman side to the Bayard side, because it seems like you'd have enough room for it on the left-hand side of the lot, on Bayard. And obviously, there's no tree there, so it wouldn't be an issue as far as the tree was concerned. That would be my suggestion, and just moving everything back and then moving the driveway around. Now, I don't know
So I have
what
three-
consequence that has.
I have 3 little kids, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old, and the 2-year-old, he can't walk, he has a health issue. So we don't want to enter from Bayard just because I think the thought was that there's too much traffic. So if the kids are running around after they jump out of the car, it could be dangerous. That's why we kept it on the Hickman side as opposed to the Bayard side for safety issues for them.
The Hickman side is where the current curb cut is?
Yeah, that's where it is. I don't think that will move at all. I think it stays where it is.
Right.
Do you have a plan if we approve this? Have you submit, you have to have some kind of a plan for how you're going to mitigate all those inches.
So, again, I'm not an expert in the whole process, but I think we were waiting to see what you all said, and then likely we're going to use that Bayard side and the back of, just the back of the lot to put as many trees as we could, replace as many trees as we could, because it'll kind of,
I mean, let me ask, this vegetated area, is that basically just a garden?
so I'm told you, I think you have to do that for the pool purpose. They said we have to do that.
I can answer that one. They're required to, with a pool, have like a drainage area, essentially, but it can have plants in it. So it can just be a slight depression, or it could be like a rain garden.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is it somewhat flexible with regard to, I mean, you could flip the pool in that, or, I mean, I'm just saying, if that area needed to be reserved, could that be put,
Well,
it has to be adjacent to the pool?
what we haven't mentioned is we're looking at side setbacks. So they could easily flip-flop the 12 and the 14 and have the 12 on the left and the 14 on the other side. But the pool can't go in the setback. But it's up to them for the side setbacks.
Right, I
It's just
see.
a minimum with an aggregate. So they chose the 14 to be on that side, the builder, designer, architect, whoever. But it could be flip-flop. So the pool could be a little closer to the side, and it could be pushed a little back, depending on what they wanted.
So push the pool back towards the back of the lot and towards the, away from Bayard, is what you're saying?
If it was me, I probably would flip-flop the 12 and the 14 and push the pool a couple of feet to like back and to the left if you're looking at the site plan.
Particularly if you have children that you are worried about running around and out into Bayard.
Well, and I
So you're
think
saying
that,
push away, I'm just confused, which way are you saying push away from Bayard?
I'll show you here.
Because I think mine's upside down.
I had to
so-
go and get mine. Basically, you can flip-flop that, and that can just encroach a couple more feet this way, and that can go back a little, just a few feet. And that
Okay.
doesn't matter, because these are just, they're interchangeable for that. Like the front and the back, you can't change, but those you
Okay.
can. So that
So
would
we'll-
be, let me go back to.
So what does that do for the trees?
It gets you further away from those couple of big trees in the front yard and further away from the big tree on the double cedar on the Hickman side.
But those are the ones that I thought were dead or in bad shape.
When it's in bad shape is the one that's
Is the crepe,
In the
back.
vegetative area.
vegetative
Myrtle.
area, that
Okay.
rotten
or
choke
the
cherry.
cherry, excuse me, sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The cherry is in
Choke
bad
cherry.
shape. It's the closest to
right.
Bayard. Liz, I have a question.
Sure.
I was just counting up the number of inches of the trees that you had said, of everything except the cherry, and I get 166. But your reports,
Yeah, so that's not that's just the mitigation required. That's not, like how I said, the crepe myrtles don't
Right.
count against you. They
Right.
don't require mitigation. A 20-inch pine doesn't require mitigation.
oh, okay,
A 12-inch Japanese maple doesn't require mitigation.
okay.
But I guess we need some clarification on, I mean, earlier in this meeting, you got, this board commission said $1,200 per tree. Was that intended to be a 2-inch caliper tree or a 3-inch caliper tree? Because that's going to drive a number here if you're talking about fees and mitigation fees. So for example, it's, in Liz's report, it's 126 inches of replacement caliper if you grant permit to remove the trees. So at 126 inches, divided by, if you said it was a 3-inch tree, divided by 3 inches, that's 42 trees
right.
at $1,200. We're talking $50,400. So I mean, it's difference between a 3-inch tree versus a 2-inch tree, and the numbers are substantial.
Well, and don't forget, they still have to meet minimum density, so they still have to have
Yeah.
however many trees for 7,500 square feet. What is that, 5, I believe?
Yeah.
So you would take 15 inches off that 126, theoretically.
So if I plant more trees, sorry, because again, I'm not an expert. If I plant more trees than I guess the minimum requirement, does that mean I have to do less elsewhere?
Mitigation?
Yes.
Got it. And all the trees have to be like 2 or 3 inches that I plant here? Okay.
Well, normally doesn't he submit a plan to you and you work with him to work out the plan? I thought that's how it worked.
So say they just needed to plant 2 trees, they would give me a planting plan. And most people building new homes end up hiring either a designer or a landscape company. So then they typically change them by the end and have something a lot nicer than what they gave me.
Would it
I
be,
guess, let me just step back for a minute, because I'm not sure that the applicant has a good understanding of exactly how the tree ordinance works in the city, and that may drive
That's probably true.
comments he might want to say here. So in the city of Rehoboth Beach, you have to get a permit to remove a tree, any tree. And she won't issue a permit, the arborist will not issue a permit unless the tree is diseased or dying or satisfies one of a few other categories that are laid out in the code. But generally, the tree has to be diseased or dying for her to issue a permit. If she doesn't issue the permit, then this is the body that allows for appeals from those decisions. But there's a mitigation requirement. So even if this body approves the removal of a tree, the city code says you have to mitigate. So if 15 inches of caliper come down, just doing it in simple math, 15 inches of caliper have to be replaced. You can either do that by replacing it with trees back on your lot, or by paying a fee in lieu of actually planting trees on the lot. So this whole discussion about here is about if all the trees were removed that you've requested to be removed, which is according to Liz, would require 126 inches of mitigation caliper. You could either plant those 126 inches back on your lot and there would be no fee associated, or you can plant a portion of them back and there would be that portion would be taken out of the 126 inches of caliper and there'd be a fee for the remaining inches of caliper.
Okay.
That's kind of in a nutshell the way it's supposed to work.
but basically, I mean, and the rationale for that is, the city of Rehoboth Beach, has, through our comprehensive development plan, that one of the values in the city is the fact that we have trees.
I've read about it. You don't want to lose.
It's a treed city in a seaside town, which is kind of somewhat unique, and we're trying to protect that. So we try to incentivize people who, in situations like this and other situations, to the extent they can, to try to protect the trees and save the trees if possible, And this is a situation here, in your case, that you've got some really big trees, that we would, I think, very much like to protect and preserve. So to the extent that you're able to make some adjustments or modifications to your plan, and the plan also, I would say the value of what you're going to end up with in terms of your house and your property and all that kind of stuff. I think we generally feel that enhancement includes the trees. I mean, it's a benefit to you, it's a benefit to the community, and that's why we're going through this sort of protracted process.
Only thing I would say is, I mean, he's a tree expert. I'm not, but
Right.
he was saying that almost no matter what you build here, I think no matter where we move this thing, a lot of these trees or all of them are going to die.
I don't think, I frankly don't believe that. I mean, I mean, that's a recommendation from Mr. Meredith, and I personally rely on his expertise, and I've for many years, and not only here, but personally, he knows that. There's a gamble. you know, but I think under the circumstances, if you can make some amends, it's still, you know, obviously some root structure is going to be affected and so forth, but you'd be surprised how well some trees will do, you know, after the you know, completion of a house that is reasonably close. I mean, obviously it's very close. You know, the amount of risk increases, but you know, I certainly feel with, especially with these trees that are on Bayard, you know. I think have the capability
Have you seen the big tree on, I know you have, because you were there yesterday. Have you seen the big tree on Bayard?
Yeah.
It's like half chopped already, you know what I mean?
Right, I know,
just don't think
but
that's a
it's,
great
you
tree
know,
to try to
it's-
save anyway.
I mean, these are trees that are going to last, you know, well over 100 years, and I don't know how old they are now, but they're probably pushing it. And you know, to complete, you know, to the extent I think we can, and unfortunately, and the thing that obviously you have to sort of consider is the fee for this thing is going to be pretty big, you know. So you know, I mean, so I would think that would go into your
of
calculation and so forth. And I would suggest, I mean, I'm not trying to persuade you one way or the other, but if you wanted to think about this or something like that, and you know,
So what
consider
are my options? I mean, so if you guys offer, again, because I'm not the expert, if you guys offer a mitigation plan, I can think about it, come back. How does this work?
I mean, I think without ruling on it, I think we could probably give you an idea of what it could be, you know.
We could just sort of not make a decision on this
Right,
case.
that's what I'm saying.
Today.
We wouldn't make a decision, but I'm just saying, but I mean, we could offer a range of what it may be, I think, you know.
Or what the fees would be?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was asking if you had some kind of a plan, because the more trees,
Well, the plan is to put as many trees as possible on the
Yeah, but-
Bayard side.
okay, so, but you have to have a number of inches for us to consider, because as many as possible, I don't know, 10, 12, I don't know how
And
many is
different trees,
possible.
different trees require a different distance between each other, so.
I think that I think basically we're just saying that we need to see something to show us that what you consider a lot of trees to be.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
I think that it's hard to give you a decision without seeing what's in your mind. And because we want to be fair, but we also want to do the best thing for the city, because that's our obligation.
Okay.
And also, perhaps, and I'm not suggesting that you do it, perhaps as you listen to Liz's thoughts about maybe doing a little flip, again, I'm not asking you to do anything, I'm just saying that was an option. Maybe if you went back and rethought, looking at your lot again, looking at the house again, looking at the trees again, rethinking, maybe, as Katie said, you would come back to us with okay, here's what I can do now that you understand a little bit more, because I think you've had a bit of a learning process this morning already, a bit, and come back with something that we could all talk about a little more clearly. That would be my suggestion.
You still give me the range, just so I know what I'm working with?
So let me talk through this. Liz said that there's 126 inches of replacement caliper that would be required if all of the trees that you asked to remove were removed, if they granted the permit for that. She said that 126 would be reduced by about 15 inches of caliper, because you're going to have to plant a little bit to meet your minimum mitigation on the lot. So then you're dealing with 111 inches of replacement caliper. At 111,
Plant any other trees, though, right?
that's if you only plant
The minimum.
15
Yeah, yeah, the
inches,
minimum.
right, 5.
If you plant 5.
So
I'll plant more than that, but yeah.
if, and I think that this board needs to give some direction on this, if the $1,200 number that you said earlier was for 3-inch replacement trees, then the fee in lieu of mitigation would be $44,400. If the $1,200 that you said earlier was for 2-inch replacement trees, then the fee in lieu of mitigation would be $66,600. So you should have a discussion about whether it's 2 inches or 3 inches. And that can give you, because if they say it's a 3-inch tree at $1,200, then you get credit for 3 inches for every $1,200 of mitigation fee. Your fee would be $44,400, only planting the 15 inches or the 5 trees of mitigation. If they say it's a 2-inch tree, then your fee in lieu of mitigation is $66,600. So again, the numbers are big, and that the spread between 44 and 66, is $22,000.
Right.
So probably worth you all deciding what you meant by $1,200 per tree.
Well,
Is the cap gone as of like 10 minutes ago?
yeah.
So I just wonder, how is this fair that some lady tore down all her trees for $1,500?
Well, and that's a
And I gotta
discussion that
come
you
in
all can have as well, is whether
That
there's
doesn't
mitigating
seem-
circumstances or unique
That's not
circumstances with
equitable
this
or
lot, and
fair,
you
I
want to
don't
cap
think.
it.
Well, to me, it wasn't fair that people got to take down all the trees on a lot and only had to pay, I think she only had to pay,
I think it was $1,500.
I don't know what you're talking. Are you talking about
don't know
Jones
either.
Lane?
I don't know anything about
that
this.
one where Oak Grove used to be.
That was five figures. That was not 1,000. That was 10,000, and it was only like 2 or 3 trees.
And it
Yeah,
was,
but they were.
They were big.
it was
really
quite a while,
big
it was
trees.
quite a while
It
ago,
was,
however.
no, it was,
That was
it was
what,
while
20
I've
years
been on the
ago?
board. No, it was while I've been on the board.
Oh, no.
I've been on the board.
No, it was within the last year.
Oh, well, oh.
Yeah. They were literally in the footprint of the house, and there were no other trees on the property. I remember that one. They finished the house not long ago. That being said, I can offer some insight into the process that typically when something like this is denied, when they're throwing everything out there and say, we just want to remove everything, obviously it doesn't meet the conditions in the code. That's very clear. So typically what we do is we say, this is not approved, send us back an approvable plan, which is what we did. They elected to appeal. That is not standard. Typically, we get a compromise somewhere in the middle. So I am surprised we ended up here without that intermediary step. And a lot of the questions you're answering would have been worked out during that.
So I'm just curious, who do you all recommend for, and you may not be able to do this, but who do you recommend for like landscape planning and design? You can't do that?
Yeah, can't make recommendations.
We
I mean,
can-
depending on what your timing is, an option to you is to defer for a month of this to figure out how many replacement trees can I actually plant on this lot, so you know what
Yeah,
you're.
well, I think we have to defer because you all don't know what I'm doing.
You're right.
So
Then, yeah.
I think that's probably the right move right now. And come back and do this again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can look at the caliper inches that you can,
So I have another question, just while I'm here, do people normally come with like a landscape expert as well? Or like they're maybe a landscape architect?
No.
They don't necessarily have to come, but they have a plan.
No, typically that comes near the end. Like you start building your house, you have your plan that's approved, you start building your house, and then you hire your landscaper or whoever it is right around the same time frame.
You can bring whatever level of evidence you want to bring. I mean, for example, you've got 2 certified arborists, one saying trees are going to die if we do this plan that we currently have before us, the other one saying trees can be saved. So if there's some evidentiary set of facts that you can bring that suggests that this arborist has some compelling information that is more relevant than what the city arborist has put forward, then that's all evidence that they'll take in and weigh it. But right now, you have 2 arborists saying opposite.
And I can always air spade it.
Can I offer a third alternative? Is that the property owner goes not back to the drawing board, but really takes another look with his builder and his arborist and see if they can't figure out the step that we missed, which is where they come back to us and say, hey, we did X, Y, Z, and we think we can save these 3 trees.
I mean, it sounds like they're going
And
to
not
defer
have to
for a
continue.
month, and so any of those conversations can be had for sure. But-
Because the thing is, I believe that Garrison, I'm pretty sure Garrison's the builder, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was make sure I wasn't wrong on that one. I'm pretty sure the part where I said that we were still waiting on things, I think they either I think they contacted the city on Friday and are almost resolved those few minor things. So they're gonna be ready to build this house. And the longer a lot sits there empty, the worse it is for everybody in the city. Like, we want to get them building and get them done. We don't want empty, unattended lots. So I think if, instead of just, I mean, obviously it's their option to wait another month, but, you know, if they can figure something out in the meantime, I would hope the board would be amenable to that.
One thing that I think that Liz is speaking to and spoke to earlier. Oh, that Liz spoke to earlier is the fact that what you can do with your builder and your arborist is to come up with with something to show us. And then you can hire your landscape designer, your landscape architect. I think that that's probably a good place for you to start by what Liz is saying, so they can get started on the home. And you don't have to wait for a couple months to get a design
Yeah.
back.
So I'm okay to call Liz and ask her questions.
Yes.
I would
Absolutely.
imagine,
Yeah.
yeah. I call her all the
Told
time.
me, do not call her.
Really horrible. I'm
like,
sorry,
all right, I
everybody's
don't like
afraid.
that
Yes, she is the Wicked Witch of the West. No.
People call me all the time and they always preface it, I know this is silly and I don't understand it. Honestly, like, I get all kinds of questions, so that's not an issue. But it always, I mean, you can also schedule an appointment with your builder and Jeff to come in too if you want to talk it all out, because sometimes everybody gets left out of the conversation, and that's probably why they said we'll handle it, because then I tell you one thing and you're relaying it to them, and telephone, it all gets screwed up. So
It's a really good idea to have everybody together and meet with Liz, because then you're all on the same page.
Got it.
I mean, that's my experience.
What air spading is, and Liz knows what air spading is. We go in and we have air compressor and all. It actually spades those root structures out without hurting it, that I can see where the roots go, okay, where they're gonna dig and all. One of those large
Oh, so
trees,
you
I can
show,
do
yeah.
that, yeah.
yeah, so he can go in, air spade it, cut them
see-
cleanly instead of ripping them up like
Correct.
a big equipment does.
So, I'm sorry, I keep asking all these questions. If I get with Liz with a plan, a remediation plan, or potentially saving some of the trees, can we potentially get approvals before next month's meeting? Or do we have to wait till?
You
next
gotta
month?
wait for the meeting.
Well,
Wait for the-
Because-
what if they came back to me with a plan that was approvable on my end?
Oh, sure.
Well,
If you
if
can
it
get
was
approved with her.
approved-
You
Well,
can give
that
them
would-
approval, then we don't have
Okay.
to do anything.
Yeah, you don't have to appeal if she approves.
So my suggestion is maybe we table this for next meeting, and in the meantime, if they can figure something out that's approvable, it'll be approved. If not, then they'll come back here and I'll just make sure that Ann is informed either way.
And then at that point in time, you can tweak the plan with someone, with a designer, or, so, I mean, you can end up getting what you want, but you don't have to wait for us to meet with you.
Got it.
Okay.
At least I know I can call Liz now.
Oh,
so that'll help.
She's very nice.
Call her. Nobody call us.
People say that she denies things, but she has to deny it if it doesn't meet the code. She doesn't have, her hands are tied. So if you can come up with a way that, by working with her to come up with a plan that she can approve, then we don't have to,
So does it have
we
to
don't have
meet
to
the
do anything.
code? Technical question, but does it have to meet the code exactly the way it's read? Or is there like a best efforts if you try to save a few of the trees?
That kind of is how the code reads, basically. We expect people, when they bring in plans, to try and preserve valuable trees. So like an 8-inch crepe myrtle, we don't worry about that. You can go right out and buy another one. A 36-inch white oak, we expect people to take steps to try and preserve if it's possible. And sometimes it's not possible.
So if you can just even show that you've taken some steps to see what you can do, but these are the reasons you can't,
Okay. Yeah,
that's
no,
an
this is
effort.
super-
You've
yeah,
made
this
an
is super
effort.
helpful.
In essence, our mandate is to have zero net change in the tree structure
read that,
in
yeah.
Rehoboth. I mean, in essence, if you go to the very bottom line, so that if a tree goes away here, there's a tree put here. And so that so that our canopy and our beautiful ambiance of trees is maintained. And that's what we're trying to do, and we know that people like you one of the reasons perhaps you value Rehoboth is because of that, the canopy. So that's what we're trying to do.
I mean, I will say that we're very appreciative that you've decided to build a house in Rehoboth. I mean,
Yes.
you know, you could have gone out and built it in a cornfield somewhere, you know, but with that, unfortunately, comes with certain constraints that can be kind of onerous, but anyway, but we would very much like a positive outcome for the city and you and
And for you.
everybody.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
okay. So if.
I think I got a plan out.
Do we need a-
So do we have to have a motion
I think a motion to defer, yeah.
Get you.
I move that we defer the decision on case 062203 until the September meeting.
Okay, all right.
I
It's
second that.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for your understanding.
Thank you very much for your
Michael,
time.
sit here.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you later.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go back and revisit that. Okay. All right, okay,
Don't get water on her, she might melt.
okay.
It is probably raining outside right now.
Before we move on to the next one, wait for you guys.
Right, that's what I think too.
Okay, I said, before we move on to the next one, I think we should clarify the 2-inch to 3-inch. You know,
my
what was our
gosh.
thinking with regard to that?
I personally think it should be 2.5 inches, because you've got a range between 2 to 2.5 inches.
Yeah, I mean, if we had a plan, we could sort of have figured that out, could we not?
I'm sorry?
I said, if we had a plan as to, in terms of like what exactly, you know,
Well, yes, I mean, if you had a plan and it was specified to the point where you knew what was being planted, whether it was a 2-inch or 2.5, well, when you buy a tree, it's a range. It's,
right. Well, I
2 to
guess what I'm getting
2.5.
at is if we said it's 2, or excuse me, if we said it was 2.5, that's,
The higher the number, the lower the cost to the.
but we're not really talking about that. The ordinance refers to 2 inches and 3 inches under certain circumstances, right?
Well, not the new ordinance. The new ordinance does talk in terms of ranges, but the only time that this number will matter is when you're figuring out a fee in lieu of mitigation. It's not going to matter for what they're actually planting on their property. Liz is going to say, if you're doing a fee in lieu of mitigation, it's 50 inches that they have to replace. So you take the 50 inches divided by 2 inches if you go 2 inches, 2.5 inches if you go 2, or 3 inches to figure out how many replacement trees are required.
Or we could just do a per inch price. That way we
Or
don't
you
have
could do
to
a per
change
inch
it if the
price.
code changes.
That's what I was planning to suggest in a moment.
I think the 1,200 was based off of a 3-inch tree, if that's what that's what my statement was based off of, that's what your research was.
Right, that was what my research was.
Yeah.
Because that was what the standard was that I understood that we were looking
Yeah.
at. But then Glenn mentioned earlier this morning that the new regulation that you, unless I misunderstood, was for a 2-inch.
I don't know about that. Did I say 2 inch?
I think, could you
Yeah, but
reread that?
But here's the
please?
point, it's still a draft code.
Right.
Oh, the draft, oh, I see, it isn't.
Yeah,
it's
so
not finalized yet.
Oh, I see,
no.
Katie,
So if
thank
you
you.
based your $1,200 on a per inch, per inch caliper, and it was a 3-inch tree, that'd be $400 per inch.
Per inch.
So that's one kind of simple.
I think that's the easiest way.
But
I
you should
think so,
prob-
I think you're exactly right, that's what I was planning to bring up, I'm glad you did.
I think that's reasonable. I mean, that makes sense. That way it's easy to figure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Do you want to amend your?
Yeah, probably just to make it clear, we probably should say, I move that the motion made earlier was based upon a 3-inch tree, and then and then we can
With a
take
per
from-
inch, so a per inch cost is 400 per inch.
Right.
Okay. I move that the motion that was made earlier is amended to clarify that it was for a 3-inch tree, $1,200, which is $400 per caliper inch.
Perfect.
I second the motion.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. All right, where are we now?
Stokely.
We're on Stokely.
We're on Stokely, okay. I'm going to read this in. Okay, this is for appeal hearing number 072204, has been requested by Jeff Meredith of Sussex Street Incorporated on behalf of is it Gray, or is that right?
Gray.
Right, okay. And Mary Agnew, owners of the property located at 124 Stockley Street pursuant to Section 253-36 of the Municipal Code, and pertains to the appeal of a denial of a tree removal permit application for 5 trees and any determination of required tree plantings or a fee in lieu of mitigation. Okay, so if Liz would like to take it away.
The following is a report of the city arborist with regard to the above reference appeal, case number 0722-04, that is heard before the commission on Monday, August 22nd, 2022. The applicant submitted a tree removal permit application to remove 5 Leland cypress in good condition along the back fence line with diameters of 10 to 12 inches. There are 2 additional remaining trees on the lot, 1 2-inch diameter redbud and 1 4-inch diameter river birch. Although Leland cypress is not considered a high-value species, the trees do provide a valuable privacy buffer and other ecosystem services. If the trees were to be removed, 1 new native tree, not a small species, with a minimum size of 3 inches diameter and 12 feet tall would have to be planted to meet minimum density requirements. The commission has the sole authority to hear and decide this appeal as per 253-36 Administrative Appeals C. Authority of the Park and Shade Tree Commission. The Park and Shade Tree Commission shall have the authority to hear and decide appeals where it is alleged that there is any error in any decision made by the building inspector on an application for a tree removal permit or land clearing permit. In exercising its authority, the Park and Shade Tree Commission may reverse or affirm wholly or in part, or may modify the building inspector's decision. Additionally, the Park and Shade Tree Commission has the authority to order a fee in lieu of mitigation.
Liz, can I have a quick question? Just because they were my client. Isn't there a holly in the back right corner too? Aren't there 3 trees?
No, not that showed up on the survey or showed up on.
Can we have you at the mic? She's recording all this stuff. Thank you.
I just wondered, was it?
You got to turn that, there's a button. Okay, yeah, it seemed better.
I thought there was one other tree. Maybe it didn't get on the survey accidentally.
It's not there now.
Okay.
It's not on the survey and it's not there now. They did have a bunch of Leland cypresses in the back.
Okay. Any questions for Liz? I didn't get to see this. And
Can't
from
see
the
it
road,
from the
right.
road.
And which raises a question, and I believe, was there some discussion with regard to Board of Adjustments about requiring photographs?
Yes, that we have it on our agenda. under
Yeah,
new
right,
business.
but I thought maybe we'd interject this. I'm shifting just to that
Yeah,
topic.
the board has raised this, the Board of Adjustment has raised the same concern that sometimes they have applications before them and they don't have a visual, so they've encouraged applicants to start providing visuals.
Okay.
I don't know if they're actually amending the code to require it. I don't think we're there yet, but I remember last month, the Board of Adjustment sort of making clear that
Wait, let me
visuals are
ask,
important.
by virtue of them filing this appeal, they're not given tacit approval to knock on the door and go look at the trees?
Oh, you
Okay,
said
that's difficult.
Nobody lives there.
My preference is that if you can
Nobody
see it-
lives there. I mean, they don't live there. They don't rent it. They don't
Yeah.
anything.
Well, I walk by, I don't want to be walking on somebody's yard.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I only stay in this city area.
Yeah.
I feel it might be an invasion of privacy or something. I would never want to.
It can be a trespass. The planning commission, the state law provides that members of a planning commission actually do have a right to go onto the property, which, and I still discourage them from doing it, but,
Yeah.
but there's nothing like that for tree commissions.
Okay. But I'm
I
just
didn't know
wondering, but you don't require any kind of photographs for the tree application, or?
It's not required. They're allowed to submit whatever supporting documentation they want. And I can take pictures too if I think it's necessary, but I didn't realize you guys weren't allowed to like go look on the property.
I mean, essentially, all we have is, this,
Yeah,
this
this
little,
is,
this
you
little
know,
hand-drawn diagram for this
yeah,
case.
so
And,
much.
and from the street, there is no place on the street standing in a city area where you can actually see any of it.
Nope, it's too
I
tight.
tried every, every
Too
angle to
tight,
try to.
you
I did
can't
the same
see
thing.
anything.
I couldn't,
I was almost late because I was trying to,
yeah, I do it day
to
before.
find those trees, but anyway. So why do they want to take out these trees?
All right, I'm Jeff Meredith, certified arborist for Sussex Tree.
Yeah, okay.
You want to replace them with another type of tree for privacy. Lelands do not have a taproot. They're only 6 inches in the ground. So I have a lot of problem when we have a heavy rain and heavy wind, they go at the size they are, and they're about, you think, Liz, about 20 feet?
Maybe taller.
30? There you
Yeah.
go, about
They're-
30.
They're big. I mean,
Big.
I could see from
They're, yeah.
The hedge. It's a Leland hedge.
side street,
Yeah.
that looked like they were pretty good.
The backside, of course, you don't want to go over there. Anyway, the backside has been cut off for Deborah and Ed Beaver that went over their property. So they've cut the whole back of them off. So now you only got the front of them, which means all your weight is toward the front. Don't know when it'll happen, but one day they will be over in their backyard. But I probably take out, I don't know, 3,000 or more Lelands a year because of they fall over when they get big. When they're small, they're not a problem. If people kept them small, there wouldn't be a problem. You
Okay.
can trim them.
So,
But when they get big, you can't.
but as far as was there any mention of the replacement with regard to the tree permit?
They wouldn't require any mitigation inches, but to meet minimum density, they would have to put in either an evergreen or a canopy tree.
Yeah, their application says the homeowner wants to replace the trees that are being removed with more desirable evergreen trees in the same exact area, or same area, excuse me.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, for example, if they wanted to put in arborvitae, that wouldn't count, because it has to be native to Delaware, so they could put in another river birch, and whatever they wanted to put in, 20 emerald green arborvitae that are 4 feet tall, they can do that, and it doesn't have any bearing on us today.
But is there something that they could put in that would satisfy it, that also would provide good screening? I don't know if river birch is
Some of
too-
them use junipers, or, I mean, people don't really like hollies anymore, but some people still use them, depending on how they use their backyard.
Yeah, they could use junipers as long as there's enough sunlight back there. But it didn't look like there was much sunlight.
Yeah, because they have pretty big neighboring trees.
But,
Yeah.
but.
But we only, for our purposes, we just need one tree. So if they want to put in a hedge of ornamental grass that grow 5 feet tall and provide privacy, they can do that too, as long as they put in one evergreen or one canopy native to Delaware.
Skip Laurel would work back there too.
I'm sorry?
You know that. Skip Laurel would work back there if they want to put in a hedge. You know, they get about 15 foot tall.
I mean, there's a million things they could put in outside of our purview. I mean, a hedge of hornbeams would be great, although they
Right.
need light
Yeah,
too. But
that's true too.
yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of
American,
different things.
American hornbeams.
Exactly.
The American can't see, but they're a small species, and we need canopy or evergreen. So they would have to put in a river birch, an oak, a holly, maple, juniper, at least one.
And the other thing about Leland's is that, isn't it true, as they get bigger, the quote-unquote canopy moves up and everything else is died
Dies.
below. So the screening effect you have at some point.
You're gonna lose it.
Yeah, it moves way up and all of a sudden it's in the sky and it's not between any properties. So that, I don't know if that's part of their issue. They didn't say that, but I know that that's true.
They eventually get a specific canker disease that kills them from the bottom up and the inside out. So that's probably what and just naturally trees do that too. But they get ceridium canker, which I didn't see on this one.
No,
But once
no
again,
ceridium.
they're about as healthy as Leland cypress come, but they're still Leland cypress. So
And the new ordinance is, well, apparently Liz is gonna have Leland's, is not even counted to have a permit for.
No, you have, I think in the draft code, there are several species that you automatically get a permit for.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you can remove it as long as we're just tracking it, so to speak.
So what do we want to do here?
I mean, I would say that it's okay to remove the Leland cypress.
That we want to put any kind of conditions on this or to specify?
And they need to plant the required
Canopy
Tree.
tree.
canopy tree.
Yeah, they would just have to give me a planting plan before we could issue the permit. then.
Yeah, like the other gentleman. I mean, they would need to submit something to show Liz that they're going to do their due diligence on their property. That would be my,
Okay. Would you like to make a motion?
Why don't you see if anybody from the public
Oh, I'm
wants
sorry.
There's one still sitting in the.
Did you have any comment, or is that?
Has
I'm sorry.
special involvement, but okay.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
I make a motion that we grant the permit to remove the Leyland cypress and the other small species, because they weren't even, they're not,
What?
aren't there other?
It's only five Leland.
5
It's
Leland.
just the 5 Leyland? I thought there were a couple little ones, okay.
We're
So
good.
then I make a motion that they're allowed to take down the 5 Leyland cypress and plant their mitigation tree, their native mitigation tree,
I would say required
Right.
required.
mitigation trees.
Okay,
I second.
okay. Any further discussion? Are
Good
we
with that.
prepared to vote?
Aye.
Okay. It passes.
That was an easy one.
Okay, that was good. Thank you. All right.
And I should probably recuse myself from this next
Okay,
one,
all right.
so I don't.
It is beautiful, though.
Okay. Moving right along, our third and final appeal. Case number 1 has been requested by Brian Barry of Barry Realty Investments on behalf of 201 Rodney Street LLC, owner of the property located at 201 Rodney Street, which is a lot, by the way, owner of the property located at 201 Rodney Street pursuant to the Section 253-12C of the Municipal Code and pertains to the removal of one Zelkova Street tree located between the sidewalk and curb adjacent to 201 Rodney Street. And from my inspection of the property, I will say this tree is situated on the left side of the lot where a proposed driveway would be. And that's the reason for it being removed. And if
All right, the
Liz would
follow-
like to make her comments, thank you.
Sorry. The following is the report of the city arborist with regard to the above referenced requests that is heard before the commission on Monday, August 22nd, 2022. The applicant has submitted a request to remove one 6-inch diameter Zelkova street tree in good condition located between the sidewalk and curb adjacent to 201 Rodney Street. The row of Zelkova trees was planted by the previous owner of the property. The planting of these street trees was approved by the building inspector in 2008 as part of a building permit for hardscaping. There will not be space to replace the Zelkova in a similar location if a new home and curb cut are constructed as proposed. The applicant will need permission to remove this tree in order to obtain his future building permit. If the request is not granted, the applicant will have to flip the house plan to accommodate a driveway on the east side of the property. If the commission approves the removal of the street tree, it is recommended that such approval be contingent on the issuance of a new construction building permit to include a curb cut and driveway as proposed. As per City Code, Parks and Shade Tree Commission has authority to permit the removal of street trees. 253-12 Maintenance C. No person shall plant, spray, preserve, prune, remove, cut above ground, or otherwise disturb any tree on any street or municipal-owned property without first receiving permission from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. Any tree removed from municipal-owned property must be replaced unless otherwise authorized by the Parks and Shade Tree Commission.
Okay, any questions for Liz?
Just to clarify, it looked to me when I was there that the tree that they were talking about in terms of caliper inch was actually on the right side, although the drawing says it's the one on the left side, unless maybe I misread the caliper inches, but
No, they're virtually the same size tree.
oh, are they? Okay.
They were all planted exactly the same time.
Exact same.
Okay. Yeah, I just, they were very similar.
I will say it's a handsome tree. I'm not familiar with the variety, but the Ronalds planted it, I assumed when they.
We have a lot of them on Rehoboth Avenue. They're very
are.
nice street trees, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And it was a little bit difficult to understand what you were looking at, because it almost looked like it was part of the 205 Rodney property, the way the fence was set up.
It was part of the 205.
Okay, so the lot's been subdivided perhaps, or it's,
2008.
I see. Oh, when the trees were planted, I see.
Yes.
I see.
Yes. So the lots were separated in 2008.
Oh, I see. And I do have one question, Liz. So they are planning to keep all of the other trees, particularly the ones that went along the east side of that property?
You'll have to ask the builder.
I'm also the owner as well.
Okay.
That's the intent, yeah, because, and I think you guys received a letter from the neighbor to the west. We're trying to keep that screening, as much as we can. But yes, we're going to save as many trees.
I didn't receive a letter, but that's okay.
Okay, yeah, we're trying to save as many of those trees to the west side of the lot as possible. I'm sorry, to the east side.
If I remember correctly, I think the bigger trees and the magnolias are going to be retained, and the river birches that kind of come into the center of the lot are going to probably be removed.
I think the river birches will go, the magnolias, the gum, the oak, they all can be saved if we put the driveway on the
Yeah.
left-hand side.
And you have a gold mine in yews and boxwoods.
And flowers.
Hydrangeas and
Yeah,
roses.
but I'm sure you're aware that they are very desirable and hard to get. And if you have to clear that lot, I'm sure there's plenty of people that would love to have them.
We will be digging quite a bit up and then reusing
Oh, good.
on that parcel or another parcel we have on Norfolk Street.
Okay, right.
I said the exact same thing when I went out there. I said, "Oh, look at all these nice plants."
Yeah, man. That's a beauty.
So Liz, another clarification, if I can ask you. You have not received a building plan for that lot showing which trees are saved or not yet, is that correct? Is that?
I haven't. Have you submitted one yet?
We have not. We will
Okay.
in the next few weeks.
So typically the builders wait until it's last minute and are like, "Oh God, we got to get our street tree out. It's in the way." So he actually kind of did it preemptively so that he wasn't held up and wasn't in a panic situation. So,
Can I ask my dumb question of the day?
of course.
Can that tree be moved? No?
No,
Yeah.
not without
It's
digging up.
already popping the sidewalk
Right
there
now.
anyway.
Yeah, right.
It's hard to move trees.
Right,
Even
I know.
then,
I didn't know.
it's,
Not enough room. Bunky, there's not enough room in there to
Yeah.
speed it.
even if it was sitting in the middle of a yard, I would still tell clients, and I had clients like, "How would you feel if you paid all this money and then it died?" Because it's a 50-50. Like, it's
Yeah,
just the luck of the draw.
And then ideally, I mean, putting it on the left-hand side, now you give the neighbor to the left, more space, and you keep the screening to the right. If you flip it around, then
Yeah, you're gonna lose all that side.
your 6-foot side goes to the left, and you're tearing all those trees, all those shrubs out.
So Liz, again, I'm sorry to ask you, so we don't know yet if there are going to be other caliper inches that are going to have to be dealt with, right? Because we don't have a plan.
Well,
Is that correct?
we're only talking about city property right now.
Right, I understand
Yeah.
that, but there could be an add-on here at another time, once the building.
Not for city property, no.
No, but for the trees on the lot itself.
Yeah, like we
If
said-
enough of them are going to be, if they won't meet city code, the caliper
Then
inch.
she won't be able to issue the permit if it does.
I think the only obvious intended removals are those like 2 river birches, which I think are too small to require mitigation.
Okay, but that's to be determined, right, TBD?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So if we approve this,
Mm-hmm.
then we are not approving the whole, we're just approving this.
Yeah, that's why I would recommend that you approve this,
With
and
the-
basically it sits until he gets his plans in, everything is reviewed, the driveway and the curb are where it intended to go, you know, and then everything is given to him at once. So it'd be a permit to remove 2 river birches, and this approval from the Parks and Shade Tree Commission, and then the approval to build his home.
I see.
Yeah, and, you know, irregardless, if I had to remove those birches, which most likely will happen, I mean, I have nearly 100 inches of remaining trees.
Right. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a
great
garden.
lot, yeah.
The lot looks like a garden, and I'm sure that's what it was then.
It was.
Okay.
That Katie did.
So do we,
Do you have any more comments or anything? Okay.
set the fee in lieu of min?
Well, here, we can use what Liz had. I guess I make a motion, I move that we approve the removal of the Zelkova, is that how you pronounce it? Zelkova tree, but contingent on the issuance of a new construction building permit to include a curb cut and driveway as proposed.
Well, wait, aren't we going to impose the fee? 'Cause
There's,
Would that be just subject to,
yeah, there's no,
it's on city property, it's a city tree.
Why would you impose a tree when I'm saving 15 trees?
Let's see if you get a second, and then we'll have discussion after. see
So
if there's a second.
my thought is that the mitigation is for private property. I'm not sure if it's ever been applied to
Yeah.
public property trees unless you would require him to plant 1 tree either on his property or adjacent to the property or somewhere else on city property. So I'm not, that would be a question for Glenn, if the fee in lieu of
I just thought that
mitigation.
was the rule, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think the
Because-
fee would be punitive because, you know, I'm trying to save trees on our property.
Well, and I can say the city has spent, since I've been here, we've not spent any money on that tree, so we didn't install it. It's never needed maintenance because the adjacent property owner has always maintained it. So I don't know if that factors into anything at all. It's not something we planted, we maintained.
And they never pruned, the city never pruned it or anything.
No need
That-
to. Yeah, it's always been
Yeah.
in perfect condition.
The
Yeah, we prune it.
Ronalds pruned it.
I just thought that when somebody took down a city tree, a tree on city property, they had to mitigate. But if that's not true, then I think that they've shown a good effort to preserve as much as they can, so.
Yeah, this section of the code does not anticipate a fee in lieu of mitigation. I think if there were certain extenuating circumstances where it was a really large street tree that for one reason or another you thought that a condition was appropriate, you could do it. But I'm not sure that that's, you know, this section here, and based upon the testimony from Liz and the testimony of the applicant on the efforts to save trees, perhaps a fee is not appropriate in this instance.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say it would be appropriate if it was actually a city-planted tree. Like if we had spent $1,000 planting it, 3 years watering it, thousands pruning it, it might be appropriate. But the previous property owner bore that cost, so I'm not sure how fair it would be to kind of essentially charge that cost again.
I think if I'm remembering a case from the last couple of months, I think that we did have a mitigation fee, Laura, for a city tree, but I believe it was because that would mean that that the property owner, that there weren't enough caliper inches on the property, and maybe that was the only tree that was there. I forget, it was something on South Side. I don't remember exactly which one it is. I haven't looked in my notes here, but as I recall, we did have a mitigation fee for that because it would essentially have leveled the property or pretty much so in terms of trees. The one that we.
I'm fine with the motion the way it is.
do you want to make a
So
motion?
there's already a motion to permit the removal of the tree
But there was no
as
second.
requested, but there's no second, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. The only discussion I'd like to make is that I think under the circumstances as you described, well, I think in this sense that there's no real cost to the city per se, and that we could reward the efforts of the property owner and what he plans to do with the development of that property, so.
And time will tell about caliper inches
Right,
and all
right,
of that.
Right, so,
Yeah, I think that I really appreciate the property owners that come before us because we then, you know, we know what you're bringing to the table and what your intentions are. And I do think preserving the trees along the side is if you did flip it, it would create losses no matter what you did. So we're weighing that one Zelkova against the other ones. I think it makes sense to do what you asked. So I really appreciate the efforts that you've made and your appearance. It really helps me when I
I try to come to all of them.
talk to somebody, so I know, just, I like to be able to come to an agreement with the property owner to develop their property the way they want to, but also preserve the trees.
I mean, we develop 3 or 4 a year, and we try to keep as many trees as possible. No, sometimes we can't keep them all, and I can't change the design, but this is very simple.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Prepared to make a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Katie's abstaining?
Okay, just
Okay,
abstain.
so it passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, you guys. We're all-
Just a quick question. Now, that's is that conditional based on, or can I remove the trees so I can do the curb cut?
Right. No, we approved its removal.
Okay.
Do you have to give anything to them to say you're authorized?
Well, I thought it was everything went out together. He's asking, can he go today and cut that tree out?
Do we determine that?
I think that's however your office handles it. They've approved it, so however building and licensing and you work together to handle that.
I would, okay, all right.
I mean, Liz, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I think you should do it all, like I wrote in my report, that everything should go out together. The tree permit for the private property, the building permit, all that at one time, because,
You hold the permit, so when you issue it, I'll cut it down.
well, this way, say you have to sell the lot and they change their mind or whatever, you never know what, we have lots that sit there. I don't think this is the case, but we do have lots that sit there empty for a couple years, change in ownership and stuff. So we never really know what's gonna happen, so.
And we made, the motion I made was based on your recommendation on the issuance of a new construction permit, building permit to include curb and cut driveway, so that you had everything in front of you to make the decisions.
Yeah, so what I'll do, I'll just write it on the regular tree permit I issue so that it'll be very clear.
I think we're,
Okay.
No, we have the other issue.
Before we end the meeting, I just want to, I think this is going to be my last meeting as chair of the Parks and Shade Commission, because I'm going to be moving on to the commission this
Congratulations,
month.
by the
Thank
way.
you. And I'm trying to get as much encouragement as I can from all of you. But I just want to say how much I've enjoyed this. It's my first opportunity to chair a meeting, and it's been great working with you all. And I thank you for your thoughtfulness and your creativity and solutions and the collegiality and all that stuff. And I certainly appreciate the help of Mr. Mandalis in guiding us through this, and I always appreciate the help of Liz and Ann and for the city in our efforts. So anyway, I just want to say that. So now, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make them,
Still have
Katie.
photographs.
Go,
There's still
Katie.
photographs on your agenda. Do you want to take that up?
Oh,
or
was that something
the
else?
issue- So on new business,
Yeah, we were
Oh,
talking
well, I thought we
about
sort of talked, well, I think we just posed a question.
if we could require a photograph to get past that issue where we say you can't see anything. It's just, I think it's really difficult
I don't
for
know
us.
how we could
We need
accomplish that.
drones.
So I think it was more of a discussion point. That's
How about I just, if it's not visible from the street, I just take the photo? I can do that, that's no problem. I go out to them anyways, so.
if you could just include that in your report, that would be.
Yeah, and if for some reason I forget, just somebody remind me.
we'll call you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's a great solution, thank you, because
Thank you.
having eyes on the situation makes a lot of difference in coming to this room. Thank you, Katie. I mean,
What if we forgot?
Liz.
One of the things that I suggest when somebody brings in an application, because they come into my office, I do suggest to them that they have photographs. So at this point in time, it's really up to the homeowner.
Okay. But I mean, but if she requires it or whatever includes it, I'm just thinking, if that takes place during the application process.
Well, we'll have it covered either way.
great.
Okay, all right.
Better to have 2 photos than none, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. So we're adjourning?
Katie was making a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, and who
Second.
seconded? All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have adjourned at 11:42. Thank you all.
Yeah, when's your first meeting?